a deep belief in individual freedom, combined with a deep belief in social responsibility. So I think that if you and I were having this conversation on a corner, and you and I might be agreeing that everybody should take better care of their health, and then we looked across the street and somebody was hit by a car, you and I would both run over to help her. We wouldn't say, oh, hell, she's on her own. We'd say, no, we're part of this community. We're part of the same community. And I think that if we could get beyond some of the kind of posturing and posing, we could have a real conversation about what we share as a people, as a nation, as humans, and find ways to, reach out to one another and help one another.
And I think the interviews like this, at least to me, are that way, because, again, people wouldn't normally think we would get along as well as we do in a conversation like this. And I enjoy well-thought-out conversations in fact, I get bored when people agree with me. I would prefer that people intelligently disagree and let me learn from their arguments.
Well,
do you think there's any area that no matter how hard you and I worked in a conversation, we wouldn't agree on something?
We might not agree on some things, but I think the interesting thing to me is that, you said before I'm a radical, and it's true, I'm a radical. But it's also true that on issue after issue after issue, I feel like I'm in the majority in this country. I don't feel like a marginalized minority. I mean, you name an issue, and I think I'm pretty much in the mainstream. So, gay rights, I mean, that seems like, wow, way out there. The fact is, most people think that gay people ought to be treated with dignity and humanity and be left alone. The government has no right to get in our business and tell people how to live their sex lives. It's just not the role of a civic society. So all I'm saying is I don't feel as kind of marginal in that way. But what I spend most of my time on is education, and I give a lot of talks at a lot of places. Right now I've got a terrible cold, so I'm having trouble talking at all, but about education. And it's surprising how many times people who consider themselves conservatives or right-wingers come up to me afterwards and say, I agree. Because what I'm talking about is some of the large issues that I think unite us as people.
Well, and I can appreciate that. Let me go back to, I'm trying to think where I want to go with this one. Where do you want to go with this?
We can talk a bit about it.
Is there any conservative out there, any libertarian that you would find to be let's say a statesman who is representing all sides equally? Is it just the Democrats that you would support, or are there conservatives or libertarians that you might support?
The thing that's interesting, I said before I'm a radical. I've never actually been in the Democratic Party. I don't feel affiliated with it or close to it. I voted in every election since I was 21 years old, but I have never felt, and I've rarely voted for a Democrat, but I always find something that I think it's important to vote for. And even though I think our electoral politics have been corrupted by money and by, dishonesty and a lot of other things, I still think that we ought to exercise our right to vote because we can. And if we couldn't, this would be a fundamental democratic right we'd be fighting for. Now, I want to extend the franchise to a lot more people than can vote now, but still, I do vote. But I'm not a Democrat, and so I don't feel either affiliated or close to the Democratic Party.
Did you ever vote for a Republican?
I have voted for Republicans.
Would you care? I'm just curious. Would you care to share, or is that a deep, dark secret?
I voted for Republicans and I voted for Democrats, but I've only voted twice in my life for a Democrat for president. Only twice. And
that's interesting.
One was George McGovern, and one was Barack Obama. And
switching gears a little bit, the mainstream media is divided on you, and there's two issues I want to cover before we get to the end of this interview.
Sure.
Acorn. Let's talk about Acorn. What's your position on Acorn?
Well, when I was in the Woods board, I was the most critical person of Acorn, not because I think that not for the reasons that you hear in the media today, but because I felt that Acorn was not fully forthcoming about their work and about how they did their work. They claimed way too much success for what I saw happening. So I've never been a big fan of Acorns. On the other hand, I'm a huge fan of community organizing. I think community organizing is the essence of democratic participation. without community organizing, there'd have been no civil rights movement, there'd have been no women's movement, there'd have been no abolition of slavery. Community organizing is what makes us tick. So I believe in it. I love it. I don't have any particular love for Acorn as an organization.
Do you love the Tea Parties?
Oh, I think the Tea Parties are way off the track. I don't think that they are. I think they're motivated by emotion. I don't know what it is they want. What is it? No taxes?
Well, it seems to me, and I happen to agree with your position, that I would rather have an involved population than an uninvolved population. And it seems to me that if you're looking at it from a left side, you say the community organization things are good things, like Acorn, but then you say that Tea Parties, arguably the right are organizing on the right, are bad things. It seems to me like you'd have to be consistent one way or the other.
No, I actually think, I'm a huge fan of people organizing. So even when people organize around issues that I don't agree with, then I want to get into the content of that and argue the content. But I'm not against people mobilizing. I think people should mobilize. So you have, whatever was in Washington last week, 50,000 people. I'd like to argue about the content of what they were marching for, but I don't think that the fact that they marched is a bad thing.
We have about 2 minutes left, Dan.
Okay, last question, and again, I want to, Bill. We're talking with Bill Ayers, and I can't tell you, Bill, how much I appreciate having you on the show. It's always an interesting conversation. Last question: you've got people in the media that target you on a regular basis. You've got Glenn Beck out there, for example. I find Glenn Beck's style very interesting, but I'm sure that you are probably not a big Glenn Beck fan.
I've never seen the show, so I'm neither a fan nor a participant.
No, fair answer. All right, we've got Cindy. Let's take one last second. Bill, we've got. Let's take 30 seconds. And what would you like our listeners to know more about you that they don't already know?
Well, I mean, I don't have any kind of stake in people knowing anything about me. I'm a professor. I'm always in these contexts introduced as somebody from the Weather Underground. That's 40 years ago. I've been an academic, a teacher, a professor for 40 years. So. If and the fact is, I'm not shy and I'm not private about it. I've written 20 books. You can pick up any one of them and know what I think about a lot of things, including education, the Vietnam War, the political situation we're in now. Mostly education is what I write.
Is there a way you'd like folks to reach out to you, website or phone number?
You can always get me at BillAyers123@gmail.
Fantastic.
Take it out, Cindy. Bill, thank you very much, brother.
Thank you, Bill. This is great. We surely appreciate Bill Ayers being on the show today. Dan Cofall will be back on Monday with the Wall Street Shuffle on CNN 1190.